Thanks a lot for joining. I'm kind of multitasking because I have to accept the incoming people. But thanks a lot for joining of this webinar by Migracode Barcelona. I'm not sure, I think a lot of people are actually familiar with Migracode. If you're not, just Google for Migracode, you'll find the information. But very shortly, we are basically a bootcamp, a code school, like any other, like Ironhack or Codeworks, but then specifically aimed for migrants and refugees. We offer education for free to enable people who do not have equal access to the labor market to still get be empowered to access the labor market, and more specifically to enter the tech market, where even now in these difficult times there is a need for programmers and other kind of tech related people. So that's very short about Migracode. I will tell you a bit more in the second part of this webinar. But first I want to introduce to you Mirtha. And Mirtha has basically her own story to tell tonight. And I asked Mirtha here to share her story because Mirtha is from the Dominican Republic, has been here in Catalonia in Spain for about 10 years. But she has, and now she's actually working in tech, but to get there, she has gone through quite a journey. And when I spoke to Mirtha, a lot of the challenges that she faced to get from there to working in tech here in Barcelona, I recognized them from a lot of the situations where our students are currently in. So I see that tonight a lot of our students are joining, which is really great because I think they will find it inspirational. But also for the people who are not studying with us, who may not be even programmers, I think it can be very interesting to see, like, wow, if you're migrating to another country, what challenges you face, and especially if you want to end up working in tech. So yeah, the story of her is, I think, very relevant for what we're doing here at Migracode Barcelona. And yeah, Mirtha will basically talk about for 15 minutes, I think. If you have any questions about her story, just put them in the chat. If you think you have a super urgent question, just unmute yourself. We want to keep it a bit interactive, and ask the question. And afterwards also we have some time to answer questions. After Mirtha, it will be me talking again, specifically about Migracode again, but then more specifically about how we as Migracode, as a non-profit coding school, have responded to the COVID situation here in Barcelona, because we face some specific challenges that I want to share how we handled them and also how we're still handling them. But first, Mirtha, I will stop presenting my screen so you can present yours. And then I want to give the word to you. Yeah, I'm seeing your screen.
Hello, everyone. You see my screen?
Yes, all good.
Well,
yeah.
Before moving forward and start telling the boring story about my life, so I want to first thank you, Vincent, for having me today, for inviting me to speak to the students of Migracode and to the community of Migracode. I'm actually very honored to be invited and that to be able to share my story because as I told you when I met you for the first time, I feel very compelled with the kind of job that you are doing. I think what you're doing is awesome because being an immigrant myself and a person who also transitioned from a non-technical background to a career in tech, I know how powerful it is to give these kind of opportunities to people and how this can be like a life-changing thing for someone. At least it was for me. And you will probably know what I'm talking about when I share a little bit more about my story. But again, congratulations for this great job that you're doing. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And again, as Vincent said, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, feel free to interrupt me anytime or to pop your questions in the chat. So as Vincent said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, my journey in tech. So as you can see here, right now I'm working as a product owner at a company called Cotecna Inspection. And if you wish to connect with me, there you can see my LinkedIn profile, feel free to reach me. And if you have any questions or just want to network, to reach me anytime. I'll be very happy to connect with you. So you might be wondering, some of you, what is a product owner, or what do I do as a product owner? So for those of you who don't know, what a product owner does is the person, or she's the person in my case, responsible for guiding the success of the product, of the software products, to lead the different teams into the creation of products that are actually solving the user needs and that are actually fulfilling the goals of the organization and the business. And so my main job is a little bit more strategical. So I need to define the vision and the what are we going to create and why are we going to build this product or this feature and by when are we going to do it. And the way I do this is by working with a lot of different teams, cross-functional teams. So I need to work very close with the tech team, the developers, architects, software, QA engineers, and so on. And also with the business part of the company, with people in sales, marketing, and also with UX or UI designers. So as you can see, it is I'm like in the middle of all these different areas. And even though my work in a day-to-day basis is not very technical, because I'm not the person actually writing the code, I'm not the person managing the different environments and the different technologies or making these kind of decisions, but I need to be able to communicate with the different people in the different teams. I need to be able to speak the same language as the engineers, to understand the challenges, and when they are telling me about they have a problem with the database or a specific framework or technology, and especially I need to be able to understand what is feasible, what is possible to do in terms of software development. So I need to have a certain experience, and I need to have a good understanding of technology as well. But that wasn't always my case. As I said in the beginning, I don't come from a technical background. I'm not an engineer. I didn't study a career in computer science or anything like that. And in the past, actually before coming to Spain, I was working a lot of different kind of jobs, honestly. And if you would have told me back then that today I would be working in tech, I probably wouldn't believe you, because I didn't consider myself like a techie or a geeky person or anything like that. But well, let me go back a little bit forward to tell you a little bit more about how it was for me and how was my immigration story and how I ended up coming here to Spain. So my immigration story started, of course, back in the Dominican Republic, which is my home country, as you mentioned before. And if you Google Dominican Republic, you will see that basically what you portray or what people know is this that you see right now, like a lot of beautiful pictures of the beach and the coconut trees and a paradisiac island, because this is why my country is famous for, because it is a very touristic country. It is one of the main destinations for holidays that people go for a vacation. But living in my country as a local is not really any close to a holiday. It's nothing like that. So the truth about my country is that the majority of people struggle a lot to be able to make a decent living. My country, even though we have a lot of natural, beautiful resources, there's a lot of corruption in terms of politics. So there's not a lot of investment in the people and in the community. So this is one of the reasons why people struggle a lot to make a living. And there's also a huge lack of opportunities, especially for young people. So there is a very high unemployment rate among young people. And basically because of this lack of opportunities, there is a lot of people who make the decision to search for these opportunities in other countries, take the decision to migrate to different countries in the pursuit of better opportunities and of a better life. And in my case specifically, I am the youngest of for kids. And I grew up in a household of a working class family. And I myself, I was exposed with migration from a very young age because my parents also migrated when I was very young. I was like 9 years old the first time my parents migrated to the United States to work, to be able to support my siblings and myself. And eventually also my older sister also migrated, my brother also migrated. So it is a situation that it was common in my family, but it was also very common like in any other household in my country. And eventually, when I got the chance to make the decision to migrate myself, I wasn't really, to be honest, in a bad position because I was lucky enough that I was working back then. I was working as a wedding planner in my country. I was also studying in university. I was studying marketing. And even though, my situation wasn't like a extreme situation or a dramatic situation, to be honest, I had a job at the moment I was studying. Still, I knew that if I stayed there, I was not going to be able to pursue all of the things that I wanted in life, like all of the dreams. I had a lot of plans for my life. I was, by the time I migrated in my early 20s. So I had a lot of these things that I wanted to accomplish in life that I knew if I stayed there, I wouldn't be able to pursue this back in my country. So I just decided to take a leap of faith and, at least try to do this change. And if it didn't work out, then I would just go back to my country and continue life as I knew it. But at least to as I said, take the leap of change, of faith, and try to see what other opportunities I was able to get in a different country. So when I took the decision, that was back in the year 2007. And when I arrived for the first time in Spain, in Barcelona, I was kind of like this guy. I don't know if you know this movie. It's a pretty good movie. If you don't know it, I really recommend it to you. But I felt like the character of Eddie Murphy in Coming to America. So in 2007, I felt great. I thought that I was going to be able to eat the world, like all these opportunities, and that anything was pretty much possible for me. But then 2008 came, and I don't know if you remember what happened in 2008, but it was actually a pretty bad year for the economy worldwide. So we had like one of the worst financial crises in the world. And that was the year that I decided to migrate to Spain. And that was also when I learned what it was to be a migrant in a country like Spain. That's when like I really started feeling what is the reality of being a migrant and the hard situation that it is for you. Because even if you have the skills and the motivation and all the things that you want to do, that is not enough to have access to the opportunities. So quickly I realized that it was going to be harder for me to achieve my dreams. So I pretty much started working in any job that I was able to work. So I did any kind of job I could find, from waitressing, babysitting, cleaning, whatever. So any kind of job that was able just to be able to support myself, I did. And this situation went on for a couple of years when I was first living here in Spain, and until I moved to other kinds of job, like a little more stable, but still not the kind of job that I wanted to pursue, and the jobs that would allow me to grow a career and the things that I wanted to get in life. So basically one day I just took the decision that I needed to change my situation, because by continuing working these jobs, I wasn't going to get anywhere. And pretty much what I did was just to start taking an honest look at what was the job market like at the moment. So that was back in 2011, 2012. Still not a lot of jobs to find, honestly. And so I just said, okay, so if I cannot find a job in my area of expertise, what are the jobs that are actually out there? So I started to look, and I saw that the only jobs that were available were in tech companies or in the tech industry. So jobs that I even didn't know what they were. Like, I didn't know what an architect was. I had no idea what a Java developer was supposed to do. So I had no idea about that. But still, I knew if this is where the jobs are, I need to get to this industry. I don't really care how. So I was probably very innocent, but that was like my goal, my mindset at the moment. And I set my goal to start to pursue jobs in tech. So I started applying in jobs. I of course tried to polish my resume to try to show that I had the kind of expertise that was required. But pretty much I started applying in jobs, and this is kind of how I felt at the moment. So I didn't have the degree or the expertise or the background, but I still applied to the jobs. And I quickly realized that, well, it wasn't an easy task, because I remember applying to a bunch of different jobs. I didn't get any single call for like a year, but still I continued applying until one day I got, like, I think it was only one call to interview for a job in an entry-level position. And so I went to this interview. I did a really good interview, and I was really close to get the job. But in the end, the company decided that they still wanted to hire another person with more expertise. So I was discarded for the position. And I remember feeling very discouraged at the time, like it wasn't really worth it what I was doing, because it was already a long time and I wasn't seeing any result. And after a year that I applied to that job and I went to this interview, I was about to give up and not to continue, and just to more or less, continue working the kind of job that I was doing and not to pursue any other kind of jobs. And I remember one day I was in the gym and I met a person at the gym who eventually became a really close friend of mine. And she happened to be working in that same company that I interviewed a year before. So when this happened, when I learned that she was working in this company, for me it was like a sign of destiny. So I knew this was the person that was going to help me to put my foot on the door for this job. So I basically had asked this person to please give me an opportunity and to take my resume to the company and to talk to the recruiters and to allow me to have an opportunity. And long story short, she was able to get me an interview. I again applied for this entry-level job, and I ended up getting an offer. And that was the first time I had a job in the tech industry. And it was an entry-level job. It was like a customer support kind of role. But I was still super happy because I knew that this was just the opportunity that I needed to start from somewhere and to prove myself that I was able to pursue this career in tech that I was dreaming about for so long. So just a little bit of how has been my journey so far in the tech industry. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details of how I managed to move from a position to the other, but just to give you an idea, from when I started back in 2013 until today, I have done a lot of different things, so a lot of different changes. It has been a quite interesting journey, but just to tell you that if today you are in the same position that I was back then when I was trying to get an opportunity and I was dealing with all of this rejection, if you are feeling discouraged today, please don't. Please try to continue moving forward. Please try to continue learning and preparing, because sometimes it just takes one opportunity to set. It's like a spark. It just takes one thing to set the fire, to give you this opportunity to be able to make your dreams come true. And at least for me, if I didn't have this opportunity from that person who was able to help me to get this interview, I don't know if today I would be in the position that I am today. So I'm forever grateful to this person who helped me at the moment. And if is your case, please continue to prepare yourself and develop your skills, because your opportunity is out there. And also, I would recommend that do a lot of networking, because that was the thing that helped me actually get this first opportunity and to get this like trust to be able to, you know, do something that I've never done in the past, and even without the experience, to be able to do to have this trust and to be able to, you know, put my foot in the door, like I said, and get this opportunity. And also, I don't know if we have people joining today who are recruiters or hiring managers, or if we have people here who are already working in the tech industry. I would also say to you to please consider giving opportunities to people who are joining for the first time, because it's not easy at all to get this first opportunity. And sometimes, as I said, this is all you need to start from there and to, you know, shift your career from there. So, yeah. So more things. So also something that, as you were mentioning in the beginning, Vincent, I had to struggle during this period with a lot of different challenges in this industry, because even though there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of great things that come from pursuing a career in tech, there is also a lot of challenges. I mean, this is not a perfect industry. There is a lot of things that need to improve. I don't think I need to tell you how the tech industry is a male-dominated industry, that there is a very little representation of women and minorities. And there's a lot of also inequality in things like salaries and opportunities. So I'm not going to, you know, tell you all of this, because probably you already know this, but at least in my own experience, being a woman and an immigrant and a person of color, for me, it's like the killer combo of the things that you never find in the industry. So even in my experience struggling with all of this, I still feel very proud to, you know, in a humble way, I think just the mere fact of existing in this time and day, it's important, because it brings representation, and it brings the idea to other people, women, immigrants, minorities, people who think that probably, you know, they don't belong here, that it is not like that. Absolutely. We need diversity. We need people from many different backgrounds. And even if you feel like you don't have the experience, or you don't have what it takes to succeed in this industry, even your past experience, it's also important, and it's also something that is going to bring a lot of added value. Because at least for myself, I know that even though I have to learn a lot of things and educate myself in a lot of technical aspects that I didn't know in the past, it was my soft skills that made the difference and made me also change my career so fast, and make me also be able to pursue leadership positions the way that I'm doing today, because of my previous experience in other jobs. So this experience that you have today, even if it's in other areas, is also relevant. This is what makes you different and what makes you stand out from the rest. So please never forget about this, because it's very important, again, to have a lot of different voices in this industry, because this is not just the future, this is the present, this is where the jobs are in this day and time. So we need to be present, women, minorities, everybody also in this industry. It is super important that this becomes a reality. And just to wrap up with my presentation, because I see that we are getting a little bit delayed. Also something that I wanted to mention before closing about imposter syndrome, because I know this is something that at least myself, I struggled a lot with this in the beginning because you never think that you know enough or that you are ready or that you are prepared to go out there and try to apply for the jobs. But I just want to tell you that it is the same for everybody, even the people that you see that are doing great and look like a very successful people and that have everything together in their minds. So it's not like that. Everybody is dealing with imposter syndrome. And so don't let this block you in your goals. So even if you're afraid of doing things, even with fear, do it anyway, because imposter syndrome, I'm sorry to tell you that it never gets better. So even if you get the opportunities and continue growing, you're going to be still handling with it. And the trick in here is just to do the things anyway, even if you are scared. And yes, just to close with my story, I wanted to do it with this quote from Shirley Chisholm. She's the first African-American woman elected for Congress in the United States. And she had this quote, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. It is a quote that I really like, and I think that it's very relevant, especially in the tech industry, because as I said before, many times you feel like you don't belong. I know I have felt like this myself many times, being surrounded by other people who don't look like me or who don't have a background like me. But this is when I get more motivated to be present and to do this kind of representation, because I know it's important to have this seat at the table. And if they don't give you that seat at the table, bring your own folding chair. And if you don't have a folding chair and you can, build your own table. So continue moving forward. I really think there's a lot of opportunities for everyone. And yeah, I hope this me telling you a little bit about my journey and my story, I hope this inspires you and gives you strength to continue moving forward. So that's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Mirtha. Super inspiring, really.
Not boring.
No, I'm quite sure that wasn't boring. No, it was super interesting. And no, it was exactly the reason why I really was happy to invite you for our webinar and to hear your story. Like I said before, both for our students, because I think, well, I see already the comments coming in, that it indeed is very inspiring. But also for other people to hear a perspective from someone who has your background coming into the tech industry like this. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing this open story, and I see great comments coming in. So thanks everyone for the nice feedback. Before I start with my story, does anyone has any questions? Just feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, I would like to ask something. And being new, Mirtha, what do you think is the most difficult thing to get into tech?
You mean back then when I started? What was the most challenging?
When you start, when you start to do the interviews, what do you think? What was the most difficult thing to get into your head? You know, when you say, I didn't know that, now I know that I can respond better. What do you think is the key thing in the tech world? Thank you.
That is a tough question, because it really depends on the kind of job you are applying at the moment. I was very realistic. Like for myself, I knew that I had to start something entry level. So I was not going to go there and get a job in software development or as a software engineer. I knew that back then, at least I didn't have this kind of resources like Migracode to learn how to code. I was able to educate myself in a pretty, let's say, basic way in technology in order to get a job doing help desk or customer support. But I would say the most or the hardest thing for me was to overcome imposter syndrome, as I mentioned before, because at least for me, before joining or starting working in tech, it was like, for me, these people were geniuses, and I felt like I was never going to be able to catch up or know enough to be able to land a different kind of job. So at least from the beginning, I was just happy to be there, learning from these people. I felt like, I don't know, like, so like when you are in the presence of a famous person. So I was always very impressed by all the things that these people knew, because it was so new for me. But then eventually I learned that it was just a matter of time that I would be able to learn these things as well. So at first, of course, there is a lot of pressure because you feel, as I said, you're never going to know enough. But the truth is, when you know these things and you go to the next level, then you also feel like you don't know enough to continue moving forward. So this is why I mentioned before, you never get rid of imposter syndrome. But that is also the cool thing about tech. There's always new things to learn. There's always new challenges. And if you are a person like me who is always up to a challenge, like I never say no to a challenge, even when I regret it afterwards, but I always say yes. And I think that is the also nice thing about technology, that you need to prove yourself over and over again, that you need to learn things and that you are capable of doing things.
Thank you, Mirtha. Thank you for the clear answer. It's interesting. A very interesting part of your story is that you started in a call center. And I'm saying that because especially you mentioned you started in tech right after a time when there was a crisis. And right now we're basically in a very comparable situation. Our students are in a very comparable situation. We have a class that started last October that is graduating right now and is facing a very comparable challenge. And hey, we have the skills. We actually had a program like Migracode, but all the jobs are on hold or even disappeared. So right now, indeed, a lot of these students who could work in a programmer job are now also applying for call center jobs. So that may not be like the thing they dreamed of when they started Migracode, but indeed, what I really like about your story, that indeed for you as well, it was like an entry, and from there, quite clearly, you've been growing like crazy. Even though you started in a very difficult time and with a position that maybe you didn't want it as the ultimate position. So yeah, I really like that. That part is very interesting, I think, especially for our students that are currently looking for jobs.
Yeah, I know it's not very easy to probably move forward from jobs like you say in call center or customer support or things like that. That might be hard to do the transition, but I would say continue being curious and try to learn as much as possible, because at least the way I did my transition from customer support to QA, I was basically, I made the position myself. They were not looking for someone in QA, but I was constantly testing the applications because I needed to understand how they work in order to give advice to the users and to understand if they were facing any issues. So I was already testing, and I just said to the manager, look, I'm already doing the work. Why don't you get me in your team? I would be perfect for the job. And I was probably my lack of sense of embarrassment or anything like that was what gave me the opportunity to get the job. But actually, when I changed to this position, I was changed without even a raise. I was changed to a position where I was doing twice the work. I was also working in a lot of very strange times, because at the time, the QA team I was working, there was no QA environment. And for those of you who know what it is that about, I mean, not having a QA environment means that you need to test your things, your changes in production, which is something that you should never do. You're not supposed to do that. That meant that we need to do this kind of test in the after working hours. So after midnight, sometimes we had to spend all the night working until the next day. But I was just sure that this was going to be for a bigger cause. So even though I was not getting a nice salary, I was clearly underpaid by them, but I knew this was just a temporary situation. So again, my advice, learn as much as possible, because even though probably the first year is going to be a killer year and you're going to be doing a lot of efforts, but the nice thing about this industry is that there's so many companies. So quickly after a year, what I did is move to another company and got a better salary. And then if I wanted to increase my salary, then I went to another company. So this is just to say that in the end, it pays off, all of the effort that you do at the beginning.
Thank you, Mirtha. That's yeah, like I said, this started a call center and growing from position to position. Yeah, it's exactly what I hope for our students. Well, yeah, I'm quite sure that our students will do that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think we have to move on, otherwise it's gonna be a bit late. But as everyone saw, Mirtha is on LinkedIn, so just search for her on, you see her full name here in the call. So you can look her up on LinkedIn if you have any more questions. And I will also send an email to everyone that joined with some information. So thank you, Mirtha, very much for sharing your story. Really happy to have you here. And yeah, I'm going to take over myself. So let me now present my screen. And then we go to another part of this webinar. I hope everybody will stay in the call. Probably everyone came for you. You can see the presentation now, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's pick some fancy effects to make it look cooler. So yeah, let's go to the next one. Cool. So yeah, the second part of this webinar is more about Migracode itself. So as I was saying, Migracode, we're basically a bootcamp like CodeWorks or IronHack, but then specifically aimed to support migrants and refugees with their labor integration to the tech market. So we also connect to tech companies to find jobs for them. And the most important part of our program is that we offer the education for free. And we do this by making use of an amazing volunteer community of more than 70, 80 people from the tech industry and from the human resource industry to support our students in their way to tech. However, this talk is not about what we do, but it's more specifically about how we responded to the situation here in Barcelona and Catalonia, in Spain, and all over the world. Of course, we have faced the huge challenges that COVID-19 has given everyone. And in this talk, I will talk how we have responded to this situation. So just a short overview of how we were doing it before COVID. We were having a lot of classes every week, in-person classes, presential classes. We had 3 groups before COVID started, 3 groups between 9 and 12 students in each class who were coming every week, twice a week, to a classroom in Barcelona, with help from our partners in the tech industry, to follow our coding classes. And these were very interactive, intensive classes. With 3 or 4 instructors present and around 10 students in each class. There was a lot of things going on, and these presential classes were very important for us because it was easy to just walk to a student and, it seems like you're stuck, let's help, let's try to help here, have a break. During the break, we go out, have a smoke, have a drink, talk with each other, get to know each other's background. Have the volunteers who are often from here or from Europe meet the people who are from further away who migrated here. So it was a really nice social and knowledge exchange every time we've met. At the same time, we were doing quite big events. This picture that you see here was in collaboration with Glovo. I think more than 40, 50 people showed up. And these events are also to bring the communities within tech together and to include diversity into tech. So by including our students, but also trying to invite a lot of people who may normally not be in touch with the tech sector. And that also includes that we not only focus on let's say, inclusion based on nationality, so migrants, but also on gender inclusion and other forms of inclusion to make the tech sector more diverse. And yeah, of course, an event where everyone can come together within 1.5 meters, that helps. It makes it a lot easier. And lastly, we're doing a lot of one-to-ones, both to help our students between the classes. Like a student would go to the office of one of the instructors to get some help if he or she was getting behind, or even just to have a talk. We have a social worker in our organization talking to the students. So it was both for the coding part as well as for, let's say, more personal, non-technical support. So as you can see, there was a lot of presential in-person contact, which was very important for us. However, as everyone knows, COVID came in the end quite unexpectedly in Europe and hit Europe really hard, and especially Spain, especially Barcelona. We were hit pretty hard, just as Italy and just as other parts of the world. And so far until today, we have 240,000 confirmed cases of COVID. And unfortunately, more than 27,000 people passed away just in Spain, which led to a very, very strict lockdown. Since the 14th of March, all Spaniards, all people here in Catalonia, weren't allowed to leave their houses except for the essentials, medicines, food, these kind of things. Of course, this also meant we couldn't do classroom activities, we couldn't do our events. And on a bigger scale, of course, this had a huge impact on the economy of Spain, which was already quite fragile before COVID-19. So there was a huge impact on basically everything that surrounds our program and that surrounds a non-profit organization. So what was the impact on Migracode? Well, the main thing, of course, is that, like, I think me and Carlos is our head of education, we were literally 1 week before the lockdown in a bar during a class when the classes were taking place. We're taking a break, having a coffee. We're like, shit, we may actually have to do this. It's becoming like really realistic. And it was a week before, as you can see, as I wrote. It was, in the end, it was still quite unexpected. Like 2 weeks before the lockdown, people were still like, it will not be that bad. But yeah, we started thinking how we're going to do this. We never did this, and not a lot of people had experience with this in our program. And I didn't, Carlos did not have the experience. So it was a huge switch. It meant that we had to prepare 33 students who were often already in difficult situations, and also more than 70 volunteers involved in the teaching part of our program to suddenly start learning, and for the volunteers teaching, online classes, which, as you can imagine, is very different than from being in a classroom and just seeing the students, being in contact, seeing if they struggle, seeing how the vibe is in the classroom, are people still paying attention, and besides that, also just seeing if somebody is doing okay or not. Like I said, a lot of our students, they live in difficult situations, so it's important to spot issues, to prevent them from dropping out of our program, which is not what we want, because we want to give them the full package of having this opportunity at Migracode. The biggest challenge here therefore was that we should go online, but at the same time, we should keep this huge focus on this personal and regular contact with our students. But as you can imagine, that's not easy when being online. There is less personal contact, and in the classes, you cannot just easily see what's going on. So before I go how we did this, for those who are interested in the more project management side, some tools that we used. We were luckily already using Slack for our main communication. I think a lot of you in this call know Slack, but Slack is basically WhatsApp, but then for business. And it's a very effective tool to get people together, to create channels or groups, to communicate. And we use this to communicate to students, to also prepare them for their actual job in the future, because most tech companies use Slack, but also it was our main entry point now for bringing people together. Well, as you know, we use Google Meet for our classes, like we're doing right now. We're using Podio as CRM tool, as customer relationship management tool, to manage all these people in our program. Normally, I would have a meeting in person with each new instructor joining our program. Now I had to do like group calls, which a lot of people would show up. It's difficult to manage. So we really needed a tool to easily manage this. So Podio helped a lot. And Trello, not just to prepare students for working in the tech market, because Trello is a very much used tool in the tech industry, but also to create what we call information boards. So we created some Trello boards where you can literally see like websites useful for learning coding, free websites to find jobs, all these kind of things. So a lot of things that we would maybe normally tell them in class, hey, let's check out this website together. We were searching for tools that would make this available online. I've been talking about the challenges for us, but the main challenge is actually with our students. So we've had talks with a lot of our students, and these 3 that I mentioned here are just 3 of the main challenges I saw, but there are a lot more. But just to give some examples, there are students living with their whole family, up to 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment here in Barcelona, being locked down for almost 2 months. Even if you were leaving the house to get groceries, you were not supposed to do this with more than 1 person. So people were really confined together in very small apartments. Of course, there are also other people outside our course who were being in this situation. But yeah, we saw it as well in our course. And the biggest challenge was that these students were working, were studying up to 30 hours in our program. And I've had calls with them where I could see the kids running around while they were studying. That's not the most perfect study environment. Of course, there were also a lot of people who felt isolated all over the world. We saw this issue, but especially with our students, like I said, who sometimes already are in difficult positions, they encountered a lot of personal issues of not being able to talk to someone, not able to quickly go to someone, whether it was our community or outside the Migracode community. And then also more practical issues came looking around the corner, because a lot of students lost their jobs. They were already having not very stable jobs, so it was unfortunately relatively easy to lose them, which caused financial problems. And then I'm not even talking about the students that may not have a work permit yet in Spain. Think about some of our students who were working on La Rambla before COVID, like selling the tickets for the clubs and these kind of things. These jobs have completely disappeared. There is basically no market anymore for people without a work permit. So these students are struggling even more sometimes. So a lot of challenges for our students. So of course, we cannot solve all the issues, but what did we do to at least offer some sort of support to make it slightly easier for them and to prevent them from dropping out of our program and losing this opportunity? So at the start of COVID, we had in the 2nd week and the 3rd week, me and Carlos did calls with all students of approximately 1 hour each, I would say on average, to check in, not just to check in on how they're doing with Migracode as well, but also to check their personal situation. How's your family? How's your living situation? Can you concentrate in where you're staying? Just to see how it's going. And if needed, we would connect them to other NGOs that have more specialized support, to offer them additional support in terms of psychological support, legal support, or we would try to find some part-time jobs via if they lost their job. There was a lot of extra support going on, and also made possible by a lot of volunteers who were also helping with this. Our Slack, like I was saying, has been a huge, a very important point in this period, because it was the main meeting point. Instead of our classes, suddenly every day people became more active, even more active on Slack. This screenshot that you see is from our one-to-one channel on Slack, where students can ask for technical help. Like, hey, I'm stuck here. Well, you can read the questions. And this became like super active. You see that at least every day almost there's at least one question, and you also see there immediately are replies from instructors and even from other students helping each other. So where normally we'll be in a classroom helping each other, now it started happening more and more on Slack. Also quite an important point here. Our events, like I was saying, were also an important part, also for our students to find job opportunities. We actually had a job fair planned in the 2nd week that the lockdown took place. So we thought we have to cancel it. In the end, we didn't cancel it. We moved it online. You can actually see myself here trying to manage 7 calls at the same time. Each call was one company with several students in there, switching between the calls, talking to the recruiters. And via this way, they actually found some job opportunities. And right now, the students that are almost graduating are actually in some application processes, even though most jobs are on hold, but soon we hope that they get their first opportunities. We also had amazing soft skill trainings by volunteers, trainings to prepare them for the job market, trainings to prepare their LinkedIn. And this is what we normally did also in the classroom, but now we continue doing it online, and our volunteers adjusted really perfectly to this. And like this webinar, we did 2 before, and we're planning 1 in 3 weeks again, to also reach other people outside our base community and connect them to Migracode, connect them to our students, connect them to our volunteers, and of course the other way around as well. This is a perfect story so far, but of course it is not easy. There's been a lot of effort put in all of this, and this is mostly made possible by our volunteers. Our volunteers who are teaching tech, our volunteers who are helping with the CV, LinkedIn, even like job interview trainings, all in their free time, video call here, video call there. It's been amazing. If you scroll through our Slack, you will be amazed by how many volunteers are actively supporting our students. But yeah, of course, we're struggling with labor integration. A lot of companies put their job positions on hold or even close their job positions. Companies are even, as a lot of people unfortunately know, are temporarily firing people. So it's very difficult for our students to find jobs now. Hence what I was saying earlier when Mirtha was talking, we're trying to look for any option now. So also when you're listening right now, you think, well, actually, I know this company is still looking for tech support or whatever, let us know. Because it's super urgent for some students to find a stable job. Securing funding. Of course, most of our funding is coming from the private sector. We collaborate with private companies like Glovo, like Lenovo, some other big companies have been amazing partners and continue to be amazing partners during this crisis. But for the future, because a lot of companies are also affected by COVID, we may have to intensify our search for funding. So also here, if you think, hey, my company wants to do corporate social responsibility, wants to make a social impact, we are very much open for this, putting it lightly, because it's a very important part of our program. Even though we exist for mostly out of volunteers, of course, we have a stable base team that needs some financing. And student dropouts. Unfortunately, because of the COVID situation, so far we had 2 students drop out. Although I would have to say, relatively, even though I wish I could bring them back right now to the program, it's not so much considering the situation, but each dropout is 1. And we really want to prevent more, hence also why we increase our support to the students. But at the same time, it's a serious risk. So also if you're listening and think, hey, I want to volunteer, I want to help, very much welcome to join. Visit our website and you find all the opportunities. And solutions will emerge and the situation is improving. That's kind of how I want to finish this talk, because luckily it seems to be going better, luckily for everyone, not just for our students, not just for us. But the situation is slightly stabilizing. There are more options, and right now we're about to start with this, as you can see on this poster, to receiving our students in our office again if they have any questions, if they need some sort of support. It's not a full class yet. We're not back exactly at the point where we were, but it's a start to get our students also back in the rhythm of actually following classes and being presentially involved in our program, which in the end is better in this sort of program. So yeah, conclusion, we already knew that. We have a really cool community, really strong community. We turned it into a digital community, again, mostly because of this amazing support by our volunteers. And we try to keep going. If you're interested in helping, if you're interested in funding, If your company may be interested in helping in any way, check our website, migracode.openculturalcenter.org, or search for me on LinkedIn, add me, and I'm happy to have a talk and see what's possible. So thank you very much for listening. I don't know if there are any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or to put it in the chat. Maybe I just really, really clear and all questions are answered. Go Migracode. Yeah, that's a good question. Cool. I think I was just really, really clear. No questions. I hear there's a mic. Richard, you're suddenly...
No, it's okay, Vincent. I know how it's working, so it's perfect.
Cool. No, you were cool. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Like I said, any questions afterwards, contact us through the website or through LinkedIn. Thank you very much for joining. These talks, bringing people together are really important for us. So thank you for spending your Thursday evening with us. I wish everyone a really good evening. And Mirtha, thank you once more for your talk. Very inspiring again. And I hope that everyone will join our next talk in about 2-3 weeks. So keep posted with our LinkedIn and our meetup page. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, everyone.